Hello, and welcome to part 1 of my introductory lecture on Coleridge's Kubla Khan, which is a short poem but with a long afterlife. Before we get into the poem, however, let me introduce you to the poet himself, that is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. In 1798, two young men, William Wordsworth, about whom you already know, and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, published a slim volume of poetry, Lyrical Ballads, which in a way announced the arrival of the Romantic Revolution in British poetry. It was the work of two poets of very different temperaments and writing very different kinds of poetry. Wordsworth was a poet who was deliberate, meditative, and he was also very prolific in his output. Coleridge, on the other hand, wrote poems which were filled with drama, with mystery, and teased the readers with their suggestiveness. But as for poetic output, he was erratic, and in fact, in the Lyrical Ballads, he could ultimately contribute only 4 poems in the first edition. However, it was his close association with Wordsworth between 1796 and 1804 which actually saw Coleridge writing some of his best poetry. And even Kubla Khan, which was not published till much later, was supposedly written at this time. So, before we go on to Kubla Khan, I would like to introduce you to the various phases of Coleridge's writing career, because in spite of his, as I said, erratic output, it was after all a life that was devoted to the letters. So, when I look at his career, I think of it as a career in letters. Coleridge's writings include a variety of genres. There is poetry, there is literary criticism, political writing, drama, journals, notebooks, literary autobiography, letters, and as he grew older, a lot of speculative writing, speculative philosophical writing, that is. If we look at the various phases of his career, we will see that there is what I would like to call the early phase, which is more or less from 1793 to 1796 approximately, when he writes his early poetry, that is Religious Musings, quite a brilliant piece of work, long work. Then there is a shorter poem, the Aeolian Harp, also known as Effusions, which he wrote in 1795, shortly after his marriage, which has also lived on to become part of poetic history. But Coleridge was not just a poet at this time, he was also a political activist. He was involved in some very radical politics. Like Wordsworth, he had been inspired by the ideals of the French Revolution, and with Robert Southey, another poet of the time, he shared a utopian dream, a dream of founding an ideal republic, which he called Pantisocracy, which ultimately came to nothing, of course. This is also the time when he edited and primarily wrote for a journal which he called The Watchman, and that also was supposed to be a kind of a conscience keeper for society. So that was his early phase. Then he met Wordsworth, and things really looked up after that, particularly when the Wordsworths moved close to him in the Lake Districts. So from 1797 to 1804, we find that Coleridge was in close association with Wordsworth, and this is the time which I call the golden years, because this is the time when we find him producing his most significant poetry. You have the publication of Lyrical Ballads, of course, in 1798, which includes The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, The Nightingale, The Foster Mother's Tale, and The Dungeon. As I said, the 4 poems that he contributed. Then there were other notable poems like Frost and Midnight, also written in 1798, France's Note and Fears in Solitude, both poems which reflect his political leanings and his political concerns. Then you have Christabel, which was also commenced at this time. The Christabel is a poem that he went on writing for many, many years and finally never quite finished. And Kubla Khan, which according to Coleridge he wrote in a lonely farm in 1798, though some scholars have actually contested this claim and said that it might have been 1797. But then that's your Coleridge, because you never can be very sure with him regarding dates. Then in 1802 you have Dejection a Note. Now to go back to Kubla Khan was supposed to have been composed in 1798, but you must remember that it was not published then. It was published much later. But anyway, from 1797 to 1802 roughly, we find that Coleridge is writing some of his best poetry, the poetry for which we all remember him, for which we all know him. Then comes a hiatus of a few years, and after that we find that he embarks on his later career. Now this happens because in 1804 Coleridge actually went away to Malta. Why? Because he had to get away in a bid to recover his health, in a bid to get rid of his opium addiction. He had been prescribed opium for his ailments, particularly gout, as a painkiller. It was quite common at that time to use opium as painkillers. But he had got hooked onto the drug. So that was a big issue. It was causing him major health problems, psychological problems, and he was finding it difficult to give up opium. So it was hoped that if he went away from England, a change of scene would do him good. The other reason that he had to go away was because he fell hopelessly in love with a lady called Sarah Hutchinson, who also happened to be Wordsworth's sister-in-law. But unfortunately, Coleridge was already married to another Sarah, who had once been Sarah Fricker and was now Sarah Coleridge. So, with the hope of recovering both his mental and physical health, he had gone away to Malta, but he came back. And it was after this that we find the later phase of his career. And if you look at the later phase of his career, you will see that poetry comes less and less. 1807, he writes a brilliant poem to William Wordsworth. This was in response to hearing Wordsworth's The Prelude. But other than that, not too many poems for which we remember him particularly. But there is a lot of speculative writing. He once again starts editing a journal, or rather dictating this journal called The Friend. Then there is the critical Coleridge, the critical scholar, and he delivers some famous lectures on Shakespeare between 1811 and 1812. I told you that his poetry always had a streak of drama in it, and he actually composed a drama called Remorse, which was staged quite successfully in 1813. And in 1815, he started dictating Biographia Literaria, his literary biography, to James Morgan. And now we come to the year 1816. 1816, we find that Coleridge, at the behest of Lord Byron, publishes a volume containing 3 poems. Now, all these 3 poems had actually been written before, but they had not been published before. What were these? Kubla Khan, Christabel, still unfinished, but published all the same, and another short poem called Pains of Sleep. It was also the time when he was writing the Statesman's Manual and a treatise called Theory of Life, in which he actually addressed the idea of the question of what is life. Next year, 1817, there is another new volume of poetry, Sibylline Leaves. But this is mostly a rearrangement of his older poems. He is not really writing anything new. And 1817 is also very important because it marks the publication of Biographia Literaria. Now, this phase of his career I have called the philosopher of Highgate. Why? Because in 1816, Coleridge finally moved in with his physician, James Gilman, into their family. And it was there, in the comfort of a family, that he once again started recovering his spirits. By this time, his marriage to Sarah had broken down, of course. And he became pretty famous as a conversationalist and as a philosopher, and we find that he had lots of admirers and listeners who would come and listen to him, and he became the foremost romantic philosopher. And finally, we have the late works. 1825, he wrote Aids to Reflection. 1829, on the Constitution of the Church and State. 1828, he published poetical works, but once again, few new poems, that is, which are of note. And same thing in 1834. But in 1834, he actually revised the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and these were pretty substantial revisions. So, with this we find that Coleridge comes to the end of his career, and as he moved away from poetry more and more, he started talking more and more about the philosophy of life, about the imagination. He started talking about systems and philosophies, and this is what he actually engages in his late life. But even then, the poet is the one that we all really remember. And Kubla Khan, published in 1816, is, interestingly enough, a product which was written in 1798. But when it was published in 1816, we find that Coleridge actually added a prefatory note to the poem. And there we find that he actually brings together his early poetry and his current preoccupations with certain theories regarding the imagination and so on. And that is something which is I will take up in my next lecture. So far, thank you and goodbye.